Hi guys, in this video I'll be talking about antimetabolites. Now, what are these antimetabolites? Antimetabolites are basically those factors or those compounds. They have antagonistic properties against the usual metabolites of the cell. Now, one example of this antimetabolite is sulfa drug. I hope you all have listened once in your life about this sulfa drug. Okay. Now the mode of action of this sulfa drug is basically, first of all, these sulfa drugs, they block the folic acid synthesis. It's very important for bacteria because we human cannot synthesize folic acid, but bacteria, they can synthesize the folic acid on their own. So sulfa drug like sulfonic acid or sulfonylamic acid, whatever it is, okay, the sulfa drug class that have structural similarity with PABA. Now PABA is basically para amino benzoic acid, one of the most important precursor for folic acid synthesis. Okay, now I'll show you what is the actual pathway of folic acid synthesis. This PABA make a condensation with dihydropteroic acid. Okay, dihydropteroic acid. Now this condensation reaction is catalyzed by one enzyme which is known as dihydropteroate dihydropteroate synthase. Okay, dihydropteroate synthase is the main enzyme of condensation of these two building blocks of folic acid. Now this will generate dihydrofolic acid. Now from this dihydrofolic acid, it will be converted into tetrahydrofolic acid. Okay. From dihydrofolate to tetrahydrofolate conversion catalyzed by an enzyme which is known as dihydrofolate reductase. Okay. Now, what happens? This sulfa drug that is structurally similar to what I have already told with PABA. So again here the competitive inhibition occurs in between PABA and sulfa drug, because sulfa drug will compete with the PABA to bind and block this where's enzyme? Okay, this one, dihydropteroate synthase enzyme. So sulfa drug that will bind to the dihydropteroate synthase enzyme. So if this dihydropteroate enzyme is blocked, it means dihydrofolic acid will not be produced from these two precursors, and the further downstream process will also be blocked. It means folic acid synthesis will be stopped. Okay, this one is the first drug, the sulfa drug. So as this sulfa drug, it mimics the structure of an important metabolite named para-aminobenzoic acid. It's a metabolite of the bacteria. It's a metabolite. Remember that it's a metabolite. Okay, it's not a structure of the cell wall or not like that. So as the sulfa drug here acts against the PABA, the metabolite, that is why it is known as antimetabolite. And again here, like the penicillin works, they also work through the competitive inhibition process. Sulfa drug also work against the PABA as competitive inhibition process, because they compete with the PABA to bind with this dihydropteroid synthase enzyme, and once this first enzyme is blocked, the final downstream processes will also be blocked and folic acid will not be produced. And another one is, that is sulfa drug. Remember that sulfa drug is very much allergic to many patients. Okay, that is why there is another synthetic antimetabolite are present, or that is very popular in the market, that is known as trimethoprim. Okay, now trimethoprim basically has a structural similarity with dihydrofolic acid. Okay, so sulfa drug has structural similarity with PABA, the first precursor, and trimethoprim, the antimetabolite, that has a structural similarity with what? With this dihydrofolic acid. Again, here the competitive inhibition occurs in between trimethoprim and dihydrofolic acid. Now trimethoprim, that will bind with this dihydrofolate reductase enzyme, and that will inhibit the conversion of dihydrofolate to tetrahydrofolate, and that will block the folic acid synthesis. So in this way, the total folic acid synthesis pathway either can be blocked by sulfa drug or can be blocked by trimethoprim. Here I am just showing the two drugs, they act on the same pathway. But the thing is, if you employ only the sulfa drug, it is efficient to block the folic acid synthesis. If you employed only trimethoprim, it is also eligible to inhibit the folic acid synthesis. And if you apply both of these drugs in a combination, suppose sulfa drug is very much allergic to some person, so if you minimize the concentration of the sulfa drug and just increase the trimethoprim, or both of the drug should be employed at a very low concentration, in a very less concentration, but that combination of these two antimetabolite, they successfully inhibit the folic acid synthesis, it will work in the medical purpose. Okay, and that combination of the antibiotic that has on the same pathway, and if the two antibiotics or antimetabolites, they act on a same biochemical pathway or same metabolic pathway in the successive two reactions, that complete phenomena is known as synergistic drug effect. Because there is a synergism, there is a combination. Because suppose, it's just an example, suppose if you employ the sulfa drug alone, suppose you are applying it at 50 mg per ml concentration, and in same for trimethoprim, if you singly applied this trimethoprim, you will apply it for 50 to 60 mg per ml. But if you make a mixture of this sulfa drug and trimethoprim in a combination, obviously you will lower the drug concentrations, and that will make the treatment much more efficient rather than singly applying these drugs. Okay, and both of these drugs that will inhibit same metabolic pathway in the successive reactions, same metabolic pathway, always remember this thing, same metabolic pathway will be inhibited by the two drugs in the successive two reactions that have a very less toxic level but have a very high therapeutic index, and that is known as synergistic drug effect. Okay, so this is it. If you like this video, please subscribe my channel and share with your friends.